I could have everybody's attention. We have an echo yet? Okay. So in order to open this meeting due to not having a clerk, the residents do need to appoint somebody to elect a chair by acclamation. So do I have anybody that would elect anybody else to become a chair? Okay, nomination for Ed Kramer to be chair for the annual meeting. Okay, we got a second. Ed, you just got to open the meeting. Yep, and then you ask for a moderator. Do you accept? All right, come on up. All right. Is he gonna go? Yep, I have it right here for you. So. That, so you can call to order, and then this is gonna be for the moderator. Yep, so it's not so much.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. First thing on the agenda is pledge allegiance to the flag. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the next thing we're looking for is to nominate a monitor for the town board meeting. Second. Okay, motion has been made and seconded to have Jim Garrison as our moderator. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed by nay. Motion carries. Jim, you're back up here. Okay, do I go back down now?
Henry, you can sit there. Oh, okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jim Garrison. I've been a resident of Linwood for, I don't know, 25, 26 years. I was on the Park and Recs for a dozen years, and now I'm on the Planning and Zoning for a dozen years. It's my privilege to be able to serve your moderator tonight. Okay, so now we'll start out with approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Okay. Okay. Is there an emotion to approve the agenda before we have discussion, prior to discussion? Okay, the motion has been made to approve the agenda. Now we'll have any discussion that's available.
I propose that we do not accept this agenda as written, and until we put in, there is a spot for our people in our community to speak up and have their own say about anything they want, as has been done in many years past, as was started in 1881. Right now, as of last year, when I was sitting here, what happened was it wasn't on the agenda, so no one was allowed to speak about any other topic. So I would propose that it be the agenda be modified for before we approve the levy, for comments and topics from the people here at large.
Did you have something to say, Sandy? Yeah, no?
I think what Becky wants is like an open floor before we start settling on what we want to propose for the levy. Let people have their say instead of trying to get it in at the end after the levy's already been set.
Okay, so then that would be after number 10 on the agenda here. They set the levy amount. That would be at that point.
10A.
10A. 11A, 10A, okay. There's a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second? Second, it's motions on the floor and been seconded to give an opportunity to review the agenda before we accept it. Is that correct?
Get the names of.
Okay. Okay, to discuss and make a motion to change the agenda or to object portions of it. Good? Okay. All right. So now do we? Okay, now we'll have to vote on that. Sandy Lathrop seconded it. Oh,
Siri seconded.
Tom Searing seconded. Have you got the names? Okay, motion has been made and seconded to have an opportunity to discuss the agenda, the funds and the levy prior to that vote. Okay,
I'm sorry. The proposal is that we are be allowed to speak on any topic that we want. It is our meeting. If you're coming here to talk about chickens, by all God, you should be able to talk about chickens, but that's not exactly what I want to hear about tonight. But that's the point. We should be able to talk about anything we want.
okay. Did everybody hear that? Okay, so that's a motion that has been made. Do I hear a second? Oh yeah, it's been seconded. Okay, so all in favor, say aye. All opposed? Okay, motion has been made and accepted and carried. And so that was the approval of the agenda. All right, so now we'll move on to number 5, introduction of the Board of Supervisors. Chairperson John Olson. Did you want to say something, John? Thank you, John. Vice Chairperson Andy Lutke.
Yeah, hello. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, then the supervisors, Bob Miller, Brand, and Lisa Hendrickson.
Thank you.
And I want to say thanks a lot too. Thank you, everyone, for showing up.
And thank you all your supervisors for the time that you put in. Okay, so now we'll go to number 6. We're going to need a motion to dispense of reading, basically reading and approving of the annual meetings from last year. It's a process where we would read them all to you and get it, and this motion is to dispense that, not to do it. Do I hear a motion to? Okay. Okay, motion has been made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? Okay. Okay, now we're on to the departments and commissions report. For the first one is the Anoka County Sheriff's Office. And I don't know if you want me to read all the names or you just would like to. Okay, yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Back there. All right. All right.
Sorry.
Hi there. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Lieutenant Dan Douglas with the Anoka County Sheriff's Office, and I've been the liaison to this community for the last 7 years. Your deputies right now assigned for this year are deputies Jack Menard and deputies Devin Adams. One is off tonight. The other's obviously out on call, so they're not here, but you probably are familiar with them. They rotate every year. It's a bid schedule, so they are your deputies for the time being for 2025. We don't anticipate any changes to that. I also want to take a moment to introduce Sheriff Brad Wise and Chief Deputy Bill Jacobson.
Good evening, everybody. Looks like a full house. Must be something interesting going on in Linwood. As he said, my name is Brad Wise. I'm the sheriff of Anoka County. Just so you know, if we haven't met before, a little bit of background is that I spent 28 years working for the Coon Rapids Police Department, the last 11 as a police chief. before assuming the role after an election of being the sheriff in 2023. Obviously, it's my honor to serve the citizens and provide law enforcement services for Linwood. I want you to know that the deputies that work here are committed to providing for public safety, to respond effectively to calls for service, and to really make a difference for the residents. You know, you live in a safe community. The plan, of course, is to keep it that way. And then just to let you know, point of emphasis heading into summer is that I know every single one of you is frustrated by traffic, people ignoring semaphores, speeding, those sorts of things. It'll be a point of emphasis for our office over the course of summer to try to make a difference and get the genie back in the bottle. It's been a hard slog to try to get people to slow down and respect others when they're behind the wheel. But we are continuing to focus on that moving forward. So with that, I'll spare Chief Deputy Jacobson. He doesn't need to come up and talk necessarily. But I do want you to know that I'm always around. You know where to find me. Please reach out and contact me whenever you feel something law enforcement related that comes up. And of course, you have your staff liaison here too, Lieutenant Douglas, who obviously is very well versed in issues that are facing Linwood. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you guys for all this for your protection. Okay, now the County Commissioner, Jeff Reinhardt.
I just want to thank you for standing up for the cities, for the autonomy, to vote that we would have that a choice of what we do. I was not able to be at the commissioners meeting this morning, but I just think we should all thank him for standing up for our rights. None of the other commissioners did.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah, I guess a little bit more of what she was talking about is basically it's election integrity. And, you know, I've been on this topic for over a year and trying to allow cities and towns to have the autonomy to vote with a poll pad or just a paper registry that we used to use. We're being told that this is just basically a registry of all the registered voters. And so it's basically you walk in, you check in, has nothing to do with the ballot. So what's the difference if it's paper or if it's electronic? And so I'm getting such a pushback from the Secretary of State, the county attorney, staff, and actually other commissioners. So trying to push it to a vote on the board to basically, it's probably going to fail, but I seem to have a very tough time even getting it there. So argued on that point for about 45 minutes today. 2 weeks ago at the board meeting when they actually were buying new poll pads. And so I don't know, just kind of whatever you think about the poll pads or whatever you think about paper registry, I just think that cities should have the autonomy to make their own choice on the topic. So now I'll introduce myself. Not everyone here knows me. I've been your county commissioner for 5 years. Name is Jeff Reinhardt, and I've been in business for myself for my entire life. Right out of college, started a business, and I guess I've never really had a real job. So ventured into politics, live in Lino Lakes, and I ventured into politics. You know, I was on park board and P&Z and stuff like that, and then I ran for council. So I was on the council for 10 years, and then I ran for mayor. I served 5 terms, 10 years as mayor, and then took a shot at the county board just because, you know, after 20 years on the city council, I was kind of looking at something different, and a lot of people were wanting me to run for state offices. Good luck. I mean, that's a lot of work down there. But yeah, no, I ran for a county, got in. I'm in my 3rd term, so so far it's been quite an experience, and hopefully I'm doing a good job. So just a couple of things, I guess, that been working on for you guys out here. When I first got elected 5 years ago, Chief Ballman came up to me from the fire department and said, we need a generator. And so I've been trying to get a generator for the fire department for 5 years and found some money. We applied for those dollars. We got them. And there was kind of a debate going back and forth, you know, well, we need a generator for the fire department. Well, we need a generator for town hall too. Well, we ended up getting two. And so now there's a generator for the fire department and there's a generator for town hall as well. So victory. I got your back, buddy. Broadband. Recently, there were some dollars that became available from ARPA, which is American Rescue dollars. And so we worked with East Bethel. And so between East Bethel and Linwood, there's a project going on right now that's going to bring some broadband to some remote areas that hadn't had it and probably wouldn't have gotten it for a long time. So we're working with Midco. And there's going to be 117 underserved addresses, and you know, continuing to work on that. I recently got contacted from another company that wants to do some business up here, so we'll keep working on that because you know you're out here, and you know I'm driving home and I lose my signal once in a while, so maybe we should do something about cell service too. Transportation. This last summer we were able to get County Road 75, which is Sunrise between Ryan and Viking done, and that was reclaim and overlay. So should last, you know, another 20, probably 30 years. This summer would have been County Road 36, which, you know, comes in on Fawn going east and west and then goes up on Rutgers, north and south, you know, that little segment. And it was in the budget. We were going to do it this summer. And then there's a $14 million project down in Fridley that had overruns. And so they took my money and now that they're going to use it there, but I guarantee it'll be done next summer. Parks, Linwood Lake boat launch. Okay, so the road's really rough now. That's going to be graded as soon as the frost comes out. Rough road signs are going up later this week. But the boat ramp too, the concrete was damaged with some ice heaves and stuff, and that we'll be repairing that in the spring. Camp Sally is getting a new boardwalk. If any of you have been out there, it needs it. That's going to be happening in 28, so a little bit ways out. And we're going to continue to do some management with oak wilt and emerald ash borer, which is killing a lot of trees. It's terrible, but then there's some replacement efforts too, you know, where it makes sense. And then I just want to talk about one more thing. I was just out in Washington, D.C. I go out there once a year, National Association of Counties. We lobby all of our legislators for various things, but kind of a passion project for me. I've been working on this for 5 years since I was elected. We have a medical examiner's office, and they do such a good job. We handle 44 different counties. So the problem I'm about to tell you about is huge for us because of the girth of that office. And so basically, if you've served and your main clinician is the VA, and you pass, and you haven't seen your clinician for 90 days, we have a hard time getting the death certificate signed. So that means you can't access your medical benefits. You can't do anything with bank accounts. You can't even plan a funeral. So basically, and it takes about 4 to 6 weeks. So basically, the main clinician that at the VA, I don't want to knock the VA, altogether because, they do a great job. My dad's a vet. VA is his main clinician. But I mean, in this case, it's kind of ridiculous because, if you don't see them within 90 days, they won't sign the death certificate. So the process normally would be that someone passes, there's no nefarious things that went on. They just basically contact the clinician, they sign the death certificate, everything goes on as normal. If we have to take it over at the medical examiner's office, which basically is reserved for nefarious deaths or something that needs to be researched or, something happened and there has to be, it's not natural. And so, but now we've got to take our time. It takes like 4 to 6 weeks to contact the VA, that clinician that was the main clinician for that person that passed. And then we've got to get all those records and everything, then validate them and go through this whole process. And so that means too that, the family and all the relatives and everything have to sit around for 4 to 6 weeks and wait. I'm in that situation. My dad's 93. He served. I know for a fact he hasn't seen his clinician in 90 days. If he passed tonight, that would be me. I would be. He's got 14 great grandkids. and so now work the numbers on up, there's like 50 people immediately affected. And I'm the executor and the power of attorney, and everybody's gonna be looking at me. Hey, Jeff, what's going on with dad and grandpa and great grandpa? So something we've been working on, we're getting a lot of progress with that. Started off the first year going out to DC and everybody that we talked to, a lot of nodding and smiling. I just really didn't think it was going to take that long. I thought it's like, everybody's going to hear about this and they're going to solve it. Well, Washington, right? But we're getting a lot of progress on it. We do have some people that hopefully will carry this bill now and drop it and get it done. But anyway, just wanted to tell you about that because that's, like I said, that's a passion project of mine. So that's all I'm going to talk to you about, not take any more of your time. But if you have any questions or does anybody have any questions? Okay, but Jeff Reinert, contact me at the county if you have any issues, relating to county, actually anything. Oh, yes, sir. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, it was going back to the ballots that you had brought up first. What were you pushing for all the communities to make their own mind up on what type of voting they want to do, whether it be electronic, by ballot, by poll, by whatever?
Yeah, so there's a number of things that are being worked on by numerous people. The poll pads, some people say they're rock solid. Some people don't want them. For those towns that don't want to use the poll pads, they shouldn't have to, in my opinion. So what I'm pushing for is the autonomy, the choice for towns and cities to do what they want to do. Because if you want to use paper, because up until 2016, we were using paper. So if you're going to tell me that there's a problem with paper,
I'm not that.
no, not you in general. Now you're saying that there's a problem with every single election prior to 2016. So, we know they work. That's all we used. And then these poll pads come along. And so now we're using those. And they may be rock solid and everything. But if you're a community that has a problem with them, I don't see any difference checking in
Are you
to vote.
outlining, don't mean to interrupt, but
Yeah.
just to narrow my question, are you proposing that there's multitudes of this, or are you going to come up with the top 3 options that
So right now there's 2
communities can
options.
choose from, and instead of having this Wild West approach to ballots that's totally inefficient?
Yeah, so I'm just concentrating on poll pads right now. Basically, it's a way to check in. I mean, because you check in over here, the ballots and the voting is over here. They're 2 separate things. And so my idea is that, there was no problem with using paper before. Everybody's pushing the poll pads now. That's the electronic check-in. Communities should be able to choose. There's some communities that say we have no problem with poll pads. Fine, use poll pads. But there's, several communities in Anoka County. There's 4 or 5 of them that want to just use paper because they don't trust the poll pad. So fine. Yeah.
Just my concern is that if you get what you're asking for, that it doesn't blow up in your face and end up with communities coming up with wild ideas on how they want to vote versus the groups.
Yeah, there's a lot of pushback. So, you can walk before you run. This is kind of low hanging fruit, I thought, for me to, accomplish, but it's not low hanging fruit. So, all right. All right. Thank you, everybody. Oh, yes, sir.
So what's the cost on all this electronic polling stuff? You have to buy the software and update it, and who's paying for all that?
You.
Okay, exactly.
But using paper, that's not free. I mean, there's a lot of labor that goes into, actually, there's more labor that goes into the preparation and thing for using paper. But it's much cheaper than poll pads. Now it's a lot easier too for election staff to go with the poll pads, and I'm sympathetic to that. But most of the cities that want to do it are smaller cities with smaller populations. I just really don't see what the problem is.
Well, right, but then our tax money still has to pay for the other people because it's all in a pool for Anoka County, right?
Well, but if there's some towns not using them, you're not buying as many poll pads.
Right, that's true. That's true. What percentage of our tax money goes to Anoka County compared to the township? Do you know the breakdown roughly?
Yeah, so there's three different pools there.
Okay.
You've got school district, you got county,
Yep.
and you've got city. Typically, it's like a third, a third, a third.
Okay.
You know, just the variations of that. Not for probably you guys, because you guys got the lowest budget I've ever seen.
That's so yeah.
Oh, so last year it was a 16.8 increase in your levy. I voted against it. Pardon me? Well, it's, yeah, 16, we voted on last year for 2025, yeah. So 2026, we haven't worked on yet. Actually, we had a meeting today where we talked about a process that's not going to all of a sudden, because that's part of the problem and frustration I've had is introduction of all these things we're going to do all throughout the year, and we have to do it, we have to do it, we have to do it, and at the end it's, oh, by the way, we have to raise the levy now 16.8%, and actually they started at 24%. So it went down to 16.8. I had ways to move things around where we could get into the single digits. I didn't carry the day on my argument. So, and so I voted against it because when there's a way to do that and there was a way to do it.
So what do you forecast as a percentage every year of levy? Like, is it going to be like 10% plus every year? Just keep going up, 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 up.
So government grows naturally at about 4 to 6% a year.
Okay.
We had a couple of years back where there was 0%, 0%.
Right.
Those were not, we didn't have correct information. I could talk for an hour on this. So that put us in a little bit of a hole. So we had to dig out. But, you know, when I was on the city council in Lino Lakes for 20 years and mayor for 10 years, I hated peaks and valleys. There's always a way to smooth it out. Government grows at about 4 to 6% a year naturally. Not everywhere, not here. But there's usually growth, you know, there's inflation, there's, you know, cost of everything goes up, cities grow, you need more resources, services, and things like that. So naturally there's going to be increases. 16% is not a natural increase.
Right. I guess my concern is as a township, right? We're the outlier in Anoka County. We're the only township.
Yes, sir.
Are we paying more than we should be for what we're actually getting? I mean, we're up in the corner, you know, I feel like a lot of the money is going down further, you know, so
well,
with the amount of money we're paying.
So it's all based on property values, right?
Right.
And and then, you know, there's less people here, so less people are paying in, but there's still county roads and services and things that, you know, are being provided.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but anyone else?
Are we still getting the money from fines and that sort of stuff?
Oh, from a few years back?
Correct.
Yeah, I think that was like about 10 grand a year. Is that right? 8 or 10 grand or something? No?
2024, we received $236.65.
2024? Really?
I know you've seen my emails wondering why they stopped at a point in time.
You guys know anything about that?
No, they don't know.
So what the topic was, because they're a township, you know, for, I guess it's, you know, is it all traffic? Yeah, so all traffic tickets that are written, percentage goes to the township, because they're a township. It's only for townships, not cities. And I remember when we worked with county attorney, there was $10,000 I think you guys were going to get, but I think I'm remembering they were reaching back like 5 years. So maybe it was really about 2 grand a year, but 200 is a far cry from that. All right, well, can we work on that? Okay, all right. $200. Thanks for asking that. Otherwise I wouldn't know to look into it. So, yeah. Maybe they was. I don't know. You guys writing tickets out here? Got to write more tickets so they can get more money. No. Any other questions? All right, well, Jeff Reiner, give me a buzz anytime.
Thank you, Jeff, for all your hard work. Okay, we next have the fire department. I see quite a few of them in the back there.
Well, good evening. Thank you. It's our honor to represent the fire department tonight. One of our core values is to serve the people of Linwood with high standards and safety and professionalism. So again, thank you for trusting us in that service. Tonight with me, I have Assistant Chief Mike Rammel, who is our Facilities and Equipment Chief, and Assistant Chief Jim Stockinger, who is our Training and Operations Chief. With that, these are the officers that we have at the fire station. Without them, the day-to-day grind would be nearly impossible. So there's some of them in the community or some in the audience tonight. So thank you for all you do. With that, I'll introduce Chief Stockinger.
Thank you, Chief. So I have the pleasure tonight to introduce our firefighters. Currently, we're sitting at 31 members, total members. Last year in 2024, we did bring in 5 new members. Names are up on the screen. We were fortunate to get a couple that came from previous fire departments, so they had training already, which is always a great cost savings for us. And then we had 3 newer firefighters that came in, completed their EMT and their fire training last year. And then one other, Caleb, he's actually currently in the Anoka County Fire Training Academy and will finish up shortly. Good additions to our team. And for 2025, we did bring in 1 new firefighter. Chor Miller finally decided to join. He talked about it for many, many, many years and finally has joined. And he's been so far been with us for 3 months here and been a great asset, showing up to calls, doing his training, and will be coming off probation in June. So thank you.
So just a year in review on the fire department. It's a record that we don't like and hold to our heart, but we had 313 calls last year, which is a 1% increase from 2023. The average response time was 11 minutes. That's down a little bit from 2023, so that's good. Firefighters per incident is 8. We had 196 medical incidents, 40 good intent calls, 5 service calls, 22 fires, 22 hazardous conditions, which is no fire, and 21 false alarms or false calls. Any questions on that? Hearing none, I will introduce Chief Mike Rammel.
Thanks for having me. 2025 for building an apparatus. Our big deal right now is we are in the process of building a new engine to replace our current engine 2. The milestones that you guys can maybe read them from back there. Actually, one that's not on here is early April. We'll be doing a final spec out for the build of the engine. And then May 2nd is the tentative date that they'll be releasing those specs for the personnel to actually start the build. October 2025 is when we'll actually have the cab arrival at the chassis plant. And then it's due at the end of the year for the cab and chassis to be completed. So it's slated for December 31st as of right now. So basically right at the end of 2025. And then March 26th is when we do our final inspection on that. And then probably within 2 to 4 weeks, we would actually be putting it in service because we still have to transfer everything over from the old engine, make sure everything's going to fit and get it all mounted. So that's kind of the big thing at the department for actual assets this year.
And again, just to build on a huge thank you to Lieutenant Mark Sullivan and Commissioner Reinhardt for the generator. Did he sneak out already? Thank you. We appreciate that. With that, again, thanks for all your support in the community. And if you have any questions. Yes.
All right, the question I have is on the budget proposal from 25 to 26 shows a $410,000 increase for capital, fire equipment capital. Is that all the part of the new fire truck, or
That is not.
it's like a down payment on this new truck, right?
That's all been down. Everything has been set for the down payment. Excuse me. Yeah, it was 50% to start. But that has nothing to do with the budget. That's more of a capital project.
That thing about the capital on the fire.
Yeah, that's
Oh, the
what
okay, yes.
Fire equipment capital, it
Okay.
went from 100,000 in 25 to 511,000 in 26. And I'm wondering if the bulk of that is this truck, which would make sense. That's the final payment on the truck.
Yes. Melissa would have better.
So you're just going to carry a loan on that, or are you going to pay it in full?
So within that, so I just want to be clear that these are budget numbers. This isn't levy money on the back of the sheet here. And because that money is also going to be, I think it's like 426,000 of it is going to be ARPA SLFRF funding. But it's coming out of the fire department capital. So we need to budget out of that because that's where it's going to be coming
I'm just
from.
trying to
So-
understand.
Nope, I get it. And I
It's built.
appreciate that. So.
Well, thank you again. Appreciate it.
What are we gonna do with the old engine? Trade in?
They'll probably have to put it out for bids. Yeah, and then the highest bid will get it. So, it's up for sale if anybody's interested. So,
Need one. I need one of those.
thank you.
Thank you guys for all your service to the community. We appreciate it. Then the next, Planning and Zoning, Chairman Joe Dolphy is unable to attend tonight. So we'll move on to the parks, and I'm not sure they have a representative tonight.
Yep, they do.
They do, we do,
Yep.
we do.
Hi, I'm Carrie Ledke. I'm the Park Board Chair here with Sarah Nelson, the Vice Chair. Just to talk a little bit about last year with Parks, we're super excited to have opened our warming house. It was a long time coming. We opened it with a bang in January with the skating party. Very well attended. We had probably over 200 people that came out. It was a gorgeous night. We had a ton of fun. So huge thank you to all the volunteers that helped us get both the warming house ready and the ice. The ice was in excellent shape this year. We actually had a winter where we're able to use it for a period of time. So super happy about that. And then we were also able to put some mulch in a couple of our parks in Alquist and in Playful Shadows. So we were able to bring that mulch up. So those were kind of the big things that we did in the last year. Some of the upcoming things, big ticket items that we have are we need to replace our tennis court. If any of you have been out the tennis court, pickleball court, there's huge cracks in it all over. And that's probably $100,000 item. We also need new lighting for our Broadbent ball fields and over at the hockey rink. And then the hockey rink itself could use some repair. So I tell you all of this just to make you aware that we don't have the budget for that, that any one of those is more than our entire annual budget. Most of our annual budget goes to labor and equipment. And so it's not that we don't know that those things are out there. We're looking for grants and we're looking for other creative ideas on how we might be able to get that done. So as we'll continue to put money in capital and continue to save for those things, but just wanted to acknowledge that was out there.
Right. Yeah, we are very thankful to have a lot of parks in Linwood, but with that comes a lot of maintenance and upkeep. And it's our responsibility to be able to do that so everyone can enjoy our parks as long as possible. So hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to hit some of those big ticket items that Carrie was saying. We were fortunate enough to do some of the smaller things in the past couple of years, but hopefully moving forward, we can do some of the bigger projects that we want to do and need to do. So.
And the only other thing we had to say is we have an opening on the park board. So if you'd like to come join us, please submit an application. We would love to have you.
Yes.
Questions?
I thought I'd be loud enough. Can you elaborate a little bit on the disc golf proposal that's coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is a nonprofit out of North Branch that came to the last park board meeting. I'm going to blank on their name, but they want to partner with the township and provide volunteer services to help clean up our disc golf course. So Fairway Flyers, which is off of Fawn Lake towards Stacy, is a disc golf course that we have, which unfortunately there are many of the holes that are unusable. And so they want to work with us and help redo some of the pads and clear some trees out of there. There might be one hole they want to redesign, but disc golf is a growing sport, and it's almost become a destination for people to come up and play. And we want to make sure that we're making that usable again. Our goal as a park board is to maintain the parks that we have. So
Is that a league?
It's a nonprofit.
But it's a North Branch disc.
Right. I think they work with a lot of leagues and everything. I know they redid one in Stacy, I believe, and then one in Chisago. So I think they probably.
And
work
did
with
you
both of
guys
them.
do, or have they done, or is the plan to do like an impact assessment for the neighborhood? Or no?
Well, we already have the park, so
Right.
it would just, I don't know that we're planning to do leagues there right now.
Oh,
They
okay.
they didn't specifically ask if they could have a league there. Certainly people will come and play.
That's our
just
hope.
like
Sure.
just like we've always wanted people to
Right.
come and play.
Okay. Because it seemed like if you know the field, that it's all league play. But
Right, and
that's
I
what they're
think
doing. And,
right. And
you know,
what-
parking wise over there, you can park 3
Right.
cars at that park right now.
And what he mentioned is that a lot of people don't come up our way to do a lot of frisbee golf. There's a lot more frisbee golf that's more in the cities. And since our frisbee golf course is a lot smaller, it's only 9 holes. A lot of people like to play 18 holes courses. So
Okay.
he just knows that our course is unusable. And so since he's done a couple areas near us, he really wants to help us improve our park. And we want to
Okay.
take advantage of as much
Sure.
help as possible, because if we tried to do it, we couldn't afford to do
Right,
it.
right,
So
exactly.
I don't
Okay.
think there's
So
not-
there isn't a benefit for them.
No,
Not really.
I won't say they'll never ask to have a league, but that's something that we could talk about at that point in time.
Okay.
It wasn't
Right.
something that they came in and said.
Said,
"We
we're gonna
will do
redo this. Okay.
Right.
As long as, I think it's really important, as long as there is some kind of neighborhood impact assessment done, just because there is no parking unless they're gonna take down trees and make a parking lot. But even that, you're gonna have that traffic on those roads, and that can't support that. So,
And I think they're very familiar with that course because they've walked it several times and they've used it before. And so I think they kind of know if it is an ideal course for a league, because there are probably some that are much better suited than ours. Mhm.
Fairway Flyers is on Fawn Lake Drive between here and Stacy.
Kind of over by the storage unit.
The old Alquist farm. All right, thank you.
Thank you both. I really believe that Linwood is very lucky. We have such excellent parks. So next is the roads. Is there anyone here to represent the roads?
For different committees, but it's going to be kind of an overview.
Okay.
So the recycling center is a community's resource. If you guys haven't been there, it's directly behind the building here. They handle all incoming recyclable materials, such as appliances, steel, organics, electronics, yard waste, and other recyclables. Recycling took in $61,041 in collection fees and received $69,975 in score grants. So this is for operation costs for the facility and back when it's open on its Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday schedules. So as much as it's open, it is generating revenue in itself in order for operating as well. We would genuinely really like to thank the recycling volunteers. We started tracking the volunteers' hours back in March of 2024, just because we have a lot of really dedicated volunteers to the recycling program. They're there when we open, they're there when we close, they're there after to help put away and assist in anything that's needed. From March to December, there was 905 hours put in by volunteers. So I would really like to appreciate and thank every one of you guys that's put your dedication into that. In 2024, Linwood Recycling collected 998 tons of material. That's a 10% increase from last year. If anybody was unaware, our Food to People program received 14.24 tons of food distributed to residents in 2024. This equals to 156 trips from volunteer drivers as well. To pick up the baked goods totaling $1,920. Would really like to thank them as well, because I mean, they've come in snowstorms, thick and thin, -30 degrees, and they're still here. So we have a lot of great volunteers throughout this community. So if it was brought up to me, and I brought this up last year as well, the township back in the recycling center has roughly 500 of these bad boys in the back, and maybe it would be a great reuse or recycling project to maybe repurpose it. So if anybody has any interest, please go back and visit Pollen Recycling. It'd be greatly appreciated. For more information, you can visit the Linwood Township webpage on the recycling. Also, Paul does have a table set up out here with the 2025 recycling guides. So if you guys need any further information with that, we also have the organics program out there. If you're interested in doing any organics, step into the office, go back and see Paul. We do have a great organics program as well. Does anybody have any questions about the recycling center?
Mark Boyum, is Linwood not using the boxes anymore?
Correct.
So it's going in the mail?
They're back in storage, I guess.
Okay, 'cause I've got one on mine, and I guess when I replace it, I won't be putting it back on if you're not gonna be using it.
I mean, if you have them personally now and you have mail service, I'm sure it's being used.
I got mail service, but your Linwood box.
No, it's not being used.
Okay,
currently,
thank you.
so.
The recycling building back there, do we know where we stand? Have we got the money for the grant that was supposed to come through? Are we over budget on it yet?
No, so all of the recycling portion has been reimbursed. I'll get into that when I get further into the financials there. And to my knowledge, the future expectation is to be applying to Anoka County for the remainder of the grants, which would be to complete the exterior to ADA compliance with the sidewalks in the parking lot as well.
So the boxes, if I would keep it up, if anyone is passing out flyers or something like that, they can just drop it in there. Otherwise, it would have to come up to your house because they can't put it in the mailbox.
Any other questions for recycling? Okay, we're gonna move on to the senior center here. The Linwood Community and Senior Center has expanded quite a bit of their activities. If you haven't visited their Facebook page, all the current activities and information is on there, as well as the Linwood Township page under the senior center. So there is a table out front with all of the activities that are coming up, and the senior coordinator has monthly flyers that she puts out with calendars of different activities, whether it's exercise or coffee or brain games and anything of that sort. So.
This, since we have him here, maybe before roads or bridge or after, if we could have him talk.
That's up to the people.
Does anyone want to listen to Kelbar? Our state senator.
All right. And we should have Cal-Bar come up prior to the annual road report. That's now. Yep.
First off, I want to start by thanking everybody for coming out tonight. Drop this off here. I'm a big fan of the township form of governance. I have multiple times sponsored and still sponsor a bill in the legislature to make sure that any neighboring city, which I don't think you got to worry about yet, any neighboring city can't come in and pull a chunk off of your township and take away part of your tax base. So you can't be annexed without your approval. So that if Forest Lake wanted to come over and eventually take a piece of Linwood that was, if you had some kind of development, a tax-based piece that would stay here, you would have the choice whether you got an annexed or not. And so I want to preserve the township form of governance as much as possible. You're welcome. Yes, sir. As of right now, I don't think they can, but that doesn't mean somebody else couldn't take a piece. Like I know the Met Council is trying to rearrange some things. And as an example, the Met Council about 6 years ago now tried to take the sewer and water pipes they have in East Bethel and run them over a straight line, straight across country over to Oak Grove, and then put a high density housing area into the southeast corner of Oak Grove. So there's always possibility that somebody like the Met Council could come in and try and move things around. And that's why, like I said, I want to make sure you as township residents are in control of your destiny. Yes, sir.
Geographically speaking, East Bethel is probably the only, and Columbus are the only two that could theoretically stay within the county lines and annex us.
Correct. So I don't think you have anything to worry about it, but I just want to, as an example, I wanted to make sure you guys understood that I have your back as much as I possibly can at the Capitol, because I think this is the right form. As we see, the more things get centralized and the bigger they get, the more out of control and the less voice the individual citizen has. So with that said, elections, somebody asked about the poll books, the cost on that. And you can use those electronic poll books for 3 election cycles. And then they're outdated and you can't get the software updates to put in there and you can't use them anymore. So you use it for like a 24, a 26 and a 28 election cycle, and then you have to go buy new ones. And depending on exactly what you're buying, it's not like popping down to Best Buy and picking up the cheapest iPad type thing they have to a poll book. They're probably, because it has to go be certain software, meet certain requirements, it's state requirements, et cetera, et cetera. These things are costing about $2,500 a piece, and you get to use it for 3 elections. And then they're done. Well, 3 cycles. So they've a primary and a general, primary and a general, and then they're not supported anymore. The software doesn't work on those. So in some, go ahead. Right, for the county, right?
Yeah, it's like 300 grand to buy them. And then with all of the licenses and software updates and everything like that, it gets to be over that amount of time, about $800,000.
Right.
Buy a lot of paper for that.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the point where something small like a township, or I know which other 2 towns you're talking about. They're smaller communities. If the citizens want to just have the paper check-in, the registration where you walk in, just the registration there, does for us, a city the size of Linwood, it will save you a lot of money over time. So the township as opposed to town, it will save you guys a lot of money over time just to have the option. And then you can decide if you want to spend that money on an electronic poll pad that you'll use 3 election cycles, or whether you would use that money for a fire truck or something else, grading some roads, fixing the tennis court, things like that. But it should be up to you to decide what you do. The less money you spend in one area, the more you have available in somewhere else. So, yeah, go ahead. Oh,
Can I go first?
oh yeah, sorry, I didn't
So
see you back
I
there.
got a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you know if it's possible, if Anoka County just keeps taxing us and increasing, could we actually get annexed into Isani County? Because they're majority townships up there, I'm sure they spend less money. I mean, is that possible?
That I don't know. I'd have to look into that and probably send a note back to your city people here, and they could put it in a
just a
newsletter or
thought.
something. I can ask.
Is it possible?
Back in the late 1800s, a guy named Fridley came into town with a bunch of money and bought a bunch of land in Ramsey County. And then he started to work with Ramsey and hated working with Ramsey County. So he said, screw you, I'm going to be my own county. So then he formed Monoman County. Didn't last very long because being a county is a lot of money and a lot of time and a big responsibility. So then he went and talked to Anoka County. He said, well, can I join you guys? And that's how come Anoka looks like this. So that little finger at the bottom of Anoka, so to speak,
Hilltop,
is where that came from.
but if you want to, I can check in on the process of that and get back to the city on that. Township, yes, please keep correcting me. Oh, I might be out the door before we're done here then.
Can you provide those numbers with comparisons between the two voting styles, paper ballot versus these automated? You've said a lot about the automated and the cost of that. There was also mentioned the cost of workers, staff. If you don't have volunteers, you have to hire staff. So on those years, we need to know what the real numbers are.
You need the comparison numbers back on both sides. Yes. I'll see what I can come up with and send that back to the township clerk. Right? Okay. All right. There's just a ton of things. So you mentioned like the staff to run this. So now that we have an election season of 46 days for a primary and a general election, that's a ton of extra work there. So if we just trimmed the election season down to say, I don't know, 2.5 weeks, we would save a ton of money on your staff as well. I prefer one day. Just as a personal story, before I got elected to office, I was a long haul truck driver. So a lot of times I was not home on election day. And I took it upon myself because I wanted to participate in my government to get in the car and take my funny ass over to the county office and absentee ballot, vote in-person absentee, because I knew I wasn't going to be here. Or the possibility of me not being here was pretty high. So a couple, 3 weeks before election day, I'd go vote. It's not like we're telling somebody you can't vote if we don't have election season. I mean, I agree with you that we should do that, but I think we're going to need to kind of change the entire legislature and the governor's office to get something like that through. But I'm going to give you the one example that I like to use to demonstrate just how much of a problem I believe we have in our election system. 2023, we changed election law to allow homeless people to vote same day with no prior registration and no provisional ballot. So anybody can walk into any polling place, say, I'm homeless, point on the map where they live, and you have to accept that ballot and put it into the box. Even if later it's verified that you're not really a homeless person and you cheated, you still don't know which one of those ballots to pull out, which is where the provisional ballot piece comes in. You get to verify that that's an eligible voter in that district or precinct prior to counting the ballot. So one, we should have provisional ballots. Two, I don't think a homeless person should be voting. You should actually have something that says I belong here. And then we can just, those two little pieces, I think would do a world of good. But then also shortening the season down to a day or 2 or 3, maybe. We see how close we can get to 1 would be the right way. That's a really nice one. Voter ID. You have to show ID for in-person registration. For in-person. At like the absentee. Which? You're talking have the homeless person have to
Do
present?
you
an ID
have
card?
documentation to support what you just stated about
Yes.
absentee people, homeless people casting multiple votes in multiple?
Do I have proof that they did it or proof that that's what the law says?
Well, assuming that just stating that it could happen does not mean it did happen.
Correct. But that's what the law says, and it could happen. And if we're going to have a secure election system.
We just went through a whole election
Yes.
cycle of a lot of, yeah, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. It doesn't happen.
Doesn't always happen, but if it could, you
So-
should tighten the law up to make sure it couldn't happen. That's my point.
I get it. I get it. Voters' rights belong to everyone.
Yep. And I don't want to cut anybody who is an eligible voter out of voting, but I don't want people who are ineligible to vote in our system as well. So that was townships, elections. I wanted to mention so the levy, the county levy came up. And I want to kind of chime in on that. That's not all the county's fault. The state had a lot to do with that. So we mandated a change in the UI. Now, certain things that were not eligible for unemployment insurance now are, which probably kicked your UI rate up a little bit. We also changed sick and safe time law, and we're implementing paid family medical leave law. All of these things cost the county more money. We moved a lot of things that the state was doing back down to the county and said, you're going to do this and you're going to pay for it. So that's not all the county commissioner's fault. A lot of that is things that the state level got moved to the county and they get to pick up the tab for it. Pretty close, right?
The current governor's budget is doing that this year in spades.
Yes.
Just at a bottom level, we're looking at a 5% increase in the county levy just from the transfers of things that the state is pushing on us to pick up. And so, and that drives me crazy. Yeah. And I know you're not on that side.
No, I'm not, but because I think whoever mandates it should be the one that pays for it. If the federal government says you must do X, then the federal government should pay 100% of the bill. If the township says you're going to do something, then the township should pay the bill and everything in between. So when the state says you will do X, Y, and Z, the state should be the one picking up the bill so that you can identify who the culprit is, as opposed to the federal government says the state will do X and the state says the county will do X. And then the county comes down and says, here, we were told we had to do this. Now you got to pony up the bill. And that just obfuscates who the responsible parties are. Oh yeah, we could go on and on about this, but if anybody else had any questions, I'm not sure. I want to hit whatever you guys want to talk about. So I love it. We got the questions as we went. We're good. Y'all have a good night and good luck with keeping your levy low.
Thank you very much.
All right, so the annual road report in 2024, this is just operating funding. We brought in $352,418. Our expenditures were $316,729. The total fund balance at the end of the year for the operating fund was $243,322. For the capitals, we brought in $551,026 for revenue. And our expenditures were $333,511, leaving the ending balance in December 2024 in the Road and Bridge capital of $411,722. So some of the capital expenditures, we had engineering fees, $33,361. We've been working on engineering for the Martin Lake Road project. Legal fees and recording fees for some of the right-of-ways, it was $196. As far as operating expenditures, some of the larger expenditures were class 5, $62,934. This was put on 209th Lane Northeast, 217th Lane Northeast, 215th Avenue Northeast, Thames Street Northeast, Hornsby Street Northeast, 241st Avenue Northeast, 228th Avenue Northeast, George Rowell Avenue, and Elb Street. I say it wrong every time. Enhanced street sweeping cost us $12,850. We were reimbursed $708 from Anoka Conservation District. Crack sealing, $46,505. Road grading, $54,440. Our sand and salt orders for 2024 is $14,890. And our right-of-way ditch mowing at $3,848. So with our local road improvement, so bids for Martin Lake Road should be coming out here shortly. I spoke with the engineer and we're just waiting on a couple more right-of-ways before then bid packets can be sent out, hoping to get that all done and through this year. So if you guys see the extreme in the budget increases into the capitals, this is a reimbursable that we get reimbursed from the local road improvement grant. So the funds all come out of the capital and then we get reimbursed. So that's gonna trickle into 2026. By the time you get final pay estimates and all the studies and everything has been approved. So is there any questions on that? Financial questions? Okay. Oh, well, you might want to stay up. So the 2024 financial. So the 2024 financials, Linwood took in $2,494,034. 82% of this was from taxes. So when I say taxes, I don't want you guys to think that this is strictly levy money. We have cable TV franchise taxes, which came in at $24,521. Municipal state aids for streets, maintenance, it's a gas tax, it's a road allotment for $42,856. We get a state payment in lieu of taxes. That's for all the state-owned land that's within Linwood Township because they can't be developed. The state does pay us a subsidy, and we received $22,002 for the state payment. 4% of this came from grants this year. Anoka Conservation Enhanced Street Sweeping for $708. Minnesota Fire Training and Education through Minnesota Management and Budget came in at $13,234. I'm grateful that we do submit any and everything, even if it's over the allocated amount, just to see if there's extra funds available and persistence. It works. So Anoka County Recycling Grants. We received $69,976 for the SCORE grants for the operating. I do want to bring up, we did spend $59,606 in 2024 on the recycling reuse building. You're going to see that looks bad in here because we did not get reimbursed from Anoka County till January 3rd, and we are cash basis. We're not accrual basis. So I just thrown it out there. It's going to look terrible, but it evens itself out because you'll be seeing it at next year's annual meeting review. 7% of our revenue comes from licensing and permits, whether it's dog license, building permits, state surcharges, plan checking fees, plumbing permits, right-of-way permits, site inspections, septic permits, zoning and subdivision fees, escrow revenue, and administrative fines, penalties, or $200 from our tickets that we received. 3% of it is for charges for service, whether it's senior transportation, the senior hall rental, table and chair rentals, cell tower revenue, the recycling collection fees, as well as credit card processing fees, faxes, copies, notaries, and installation of mailboxes. Then we have the 3% of our revenue is from miscellaneous, with whether it's a wetland reimbursement, senior center activity fees, sale of mailbox posts, resident deposits, sales and use tax, insurance claim, interest earnings, and refunds, rebates, and reimbursements. 1% is from contributions and donations. This is coming from private sources, and that would be Linwood Family Fun Day revenue that was taken in during Linwood Family Fun Days, park dedication fees, and reuse donations. Are there any questions on the 2024 revenue? Okay. We're going to go on to the disbursements. So coming at the end of 2024, we were under budget due to not starting Martin Lake Road. When we initially had been budgeting for this, that is a road that had been set to be started, more engineering fees paid on it, but we have not seen the repercussions of the engineering fees, the right of ways, and everything come through. So that's going to be coming through here in 2025 and 2026. On the back of the agenda is also a copy of the budget history. This year, the town board held 2 budget meetings overlooking the 2026 budgets. If you've never attended it, I encourage you to do so, or now you can go to YouTube and rewatch them. So 2026 increase factors to all operating budgets were thanks to Mr. Senator Kalbar, who brought this up, is the Minnesota paid leave is effective January 1st of 2026. The initial tax rate for Minnesota paid family and medical leave program in 2026 is expected to be around 0.88%. This is a payroll tax that is split between the employees and the employers, and this is coming in 18% higher, and it's not even in place yet than they projected it. So, like he said, everybody's seeing the costs and it's trickling to everybody, and now it's trickling down to the working people because now everybody who's working for it is paying it back into another fund. So. It also, every operating fund increased due to insurance, whether it's property, vehicle, workers' compensation, or health insurance. Increases were allocated for gas, electricity, phones, internet, garbage, and wage increases. The cost of road repairs and reconstruction is increasing. And that's where I'm at for disbursements. Any questions on the 2024 disbursements? Like I said, if any of you guys have any questions on any of it, please feel free to do a data request. I want to be as open and transparent and be able to tell you guys what's going on and everything else. So the 2026 proposed levy is $2,284,000 or $84,425. This is a 10% increase from 2025's. On the back of your agenda is the estimated impact annually on property taxes based on the market values. I know there's going to be a lot of questions on this. So. Normally I sit down at this point, so. You guys can discuss with the moderator what we would like to have, well. Okay, so that's just what we're proposing. So further down the line, we're gonna come to any questions on the revenue. I'm just letting you guys know that we're proposing the 10% increase. We're gonna go through what we need to motion in order for Linwood Family Fun Days as well as other services, as Jim can do the next agenda item after
Okay.
roads.
Okay.
Folks, if you do have a question, could you please wait till Sarah or I get to you with a microphone, since everybody listening to YouTube and everything needs to hear you as well, please. Thank you.
So either Natalie or Sarah, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you're done with the financial report? All right, so
10% for the levy, you're not bringing up the fact that they want to cash in some CDs or that they're going to not fund capital accounts. None of that's been brought up. When does that get discussed? Okay. Okay, so it's not just a 10% levy. $300,000 of CDs that past boards have saved diligently for is going to be used. That's over 10%. So now we have a 10% levy increase and we have 10% being moved from the CDs to help cover the expenses. And we're going to not fund capital accounts, which is just pushing it on down the road. So in the future, we're going to need to get a new plow truck. There's going to be no money there because they're not going to fund the capital accounts. So by not doing that, we are really talking at a probably close to 30%, 28% increase. They're only going to tax us 10%, but they're taking our money to use it. And I know everybody on the board, first name basis. I know almost everybody here, and this is a very difficult conversation, but they did not go back to one single department and say, could you cut your budget $5? Could you cut anything? I'm on Social Security. I got a 2.5% cost of living increase this year. And now they want to take $300,000 from us that through the years we have saved up. And then they want to quit funding for the future. And then, but we're only going to charge you 10%. That's not the truth, the way that it's coming out. It's much higher than that. And those are the numbers we need to be aware of. And if you watch the budgeting, because I did not come to them, but I watched them streaming and want to shake the TV. But that's the truth that we need to be hearing. It's not just a 10% increase that they're proposing. They're also taking some of our other money or not funding things that we absolutely will need in the future. Last year, we decreased the levy. So you would have thought they would have gone back to some department and said, you're going to need to decrease. No, all they did was not fund some of the capital accounts. So not only did they not fund the capital accounts, some of them last year, they're not going to fund them again this year. So now we have 2 years of no money coming into those capital accounts to make it look like they really worked in the budget. Zero time was spent on working. They did all the numbers that everyone asked for. If your kids come to you and they say, gee, I need $500 for a prom dress, you say, hey, I'm a little tight this year. You're going to have to cut it down some. You don't just say, whatever you want, we'll take it out of our CDs. We'll take it out of our retirement fund. We'll take it out of your college fund because I don't want to tell you no. And that's exactly what the board has done by not working with one single department. They did not go back to one person and say, could you please cut back anywhere? And those are the numbers we have to be aware of. So as Alyssa says, the 10%, sure, that's the number that looks good out there. That doesn't look, to me, 10% is not good, but to know that there's all of that other money that it's not being shouted from the rooftop. We need to be aware of how much this really is going to impact us. Because again, nobody has to cut back anything. Oh, last year we needed 4,000 for this. This year, let's go for 6. Okay, we'll give it to you. We don't say, could you cut it back? And as the federal government is making the cuts, it's going to kick down to the state and it's going to kick down to the county, and our taxes are going to go up on all of that. So we do have to be aware of it. Not saying the federal shouldn't be cutting. I'm not trying to get into any of that, but that's what's happening, the trickle down. So for the township to not even think we have to cut back anywhere other than our capital, which is what our future residents are going to have to be paying because we weren't diligent enough to try to work within a budget.
Sandy, I appreciate that. So what was presented tonight was a modified scenario 5 from the February 26, 2025 budget meeting, and that was to cash in $300,000 in CDs and cut some of the capital budgets. And that will reflect a 10% increase to the 2026 levy, totaling the $2,284,425. So
We got a
within
question
that,
back here.
so within that, they were also brought a couple other scenarios. Scenario one was to leave the budgets as they were proposed from the departments. And that would have increased the levy by 43.4%. So I mean, to say that we didn't go and reallocate and take away from some of them, not operating.
And pulled it out of capital, which is savings.
That is what is proposed, correct?
The property taxes or that 10% increase on property taxes, is that on top of Anoka's just raised property taxes 20%? Is that another 10 on top of that?
Yes.
Fuck.
Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just.
Good evening, Brian McCullough. It's been a while since I last looked into this. The 300,000 in CDs, will that cut into the budgets, the township's amount that we're supposed to have? I remember years and years ago where we were below, I think it was 50% that we're always supposed to have in our account. And it seems to me over the last number of years, we've always kept that minimum or above. Are we going to be there if that $300,000 is used? Does that make
Yes.
sense?
No, I appreciate that. So when we're creating these scenarios, we have to end the year with anywhere between 35 to 66% of operating of that budget, because we don't receive our first levy payments until July. So we need our accounts in order to carry us over through to July until we get the first levy payments. Not to mention that's if everybody pays their property taxes and that we actually get what we levied.
So where does this leave us? Does this leave us closer to the 35 or the?
Closer to the lower end, correct? So
Okay.
we're operating, well, this would put it at 33, but then that would still leave about 465,000 left in CDs.
I'm always the guy that wants to not pay more taxes, so.
No, I get it. I do. I
But-
do.
But this sounds like we're leaving ourselves in a future bind potential.
So
We're dropping below where we should be. I'm asking, I'm not.
no, we are not
assuming.
dropping below where we should be.
Okay.
With the request.
Thank you.
What happens to the money that's left over from the snow plowing that we didn't need or didn't spend the money? Because we've had such mild 2 winters compared to the 3 winters ago. Where all that money that was saved, what happens to it?
So we have multiple funds. We have general fund, road and bridge, recycling, senior center. Every fund that, that's the money that remains within their budget. So within their account, that doesn't, unless if the town board makes an action to drop a resolution, if a fund has too much money in it, to transfer that from account to another account. But generally that money does stay within that fund. So if Parks didn't use it, it's carrying them over until they're into the next year. Granted, that budget, you can't transfer the budget item itself or increase your budget because the budget's already been approved at an annual meeting. But the money that is in there, so say senior center, for instance, they didn't do $5,000 in activities. They don't lose that money. That money stays within their account and then they start the new year that much higher. If that makes sense. So
Fund balance.
from a fund balance standpoint, that is correct.
Yeah, we don't get it in the budget.
No.
If Parks rolls over money,
Yes.
that goes back to the general fund. We don't get it the following year. So she's just talking
No,
about
it
those
doesn't go to
fund
it
balances.
doesn't touch the general fund.
All right.
So on your interim financial reports that you receive, it'll say the ending balance and that is your cash balance within your account.
Yes.
Is there a way for us to get a bigger chunk of the pie from our property tax money? Like for Linwood Township to get more money from Anoka County for us to spend, to ease the tax burden on us, so we don't have to, does that make sense?
I'm not.
Or is it a set budget? That's
I'm not
how
the-
do we get a bigger chunk?
Talk to your commissioner. I'm not the one to ask.
Okay.
Sorry.
Is it true that tonight we're just voting on the levy amount, that the actual budget numbers have yet to be sort of written in stone? This is a proposal. The actual budget process happens later in the fall, is that correct?
That's what the board would like to move forward with, kind of revisiting the budget and seeing where we're at to see if it's something that they could lower the levy. Tonight, if you guys set the levy at 10%, the board does have the obligation to hold a meeting that would be set at the March 25th meeting. They would set a date in the fall that they'd be able to go over everybody's budgets and determine if they actually need that 10%. They can't raise it over that 10% or whatever the residents approved tonight. They cannot raise it over that dollar amount, but they could lower it.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions? Like I said, if anybody has any, follow up, feel free to email me. Okay.
Okay, so we'll move on with the agenda. And now we're going to request some motions to be made. The first one is I'll need a motion on the floor. I'll read it for what it says. Request for funds authorization to spend up to 26,000 for historical or general community celebration and up to 1,000 for recognition of service for retirees, volunteers, and or special service efforts. Does anyone wish to make a motion for that? So hearing no motion. Okay. Do what I just said.
Do what you said,
Yeah.
because I can't remember it all.
Joe has made a motion for the request for the funds for the historical and the service and retirees, volunteers.
Okay, right there.
Its motion has been made and seconded. Who seconded it?
Tony, do
you want him to read it?
are you comfortable with? Okay.
Okay, so a motion has been made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, so then we go to the next requirement of a motion. Authorization to spend up to 1,750 for health, social, recreational services. Good question. Can someone help me out a little bit here on this? What are they asking for health, social, and recreational services?
So for the health, social, and recreational services, statutorily, we need to be able to set a dollar amount. There's been many years that we have not used the money, but we need to be able to set a dollar amount that we're eligible in order to give nonprofit companies such as Alexandra House. And let's see here. It's health and social services. So whether it's victim services, I think Alexander House asked us for $173 last year. But then we've also had Forest Lake schools come and ask for a donation for services provided throughout the schools. They do come and talk at the town board meetings and address the issues that they're facing throughout the schools and being able to support extra support for the kids. So it's health and social services. And in order to be able to give to health and social services, we need a motion needs to be made at the annual meeting of the dollar amount that the town board is able to approve for that.
So potentially could the motion suggest a smaller amount?
Absolutely. Yep. Last year we spent 1,000.
Wait.
Okay, we need,
Okay, who made the motion? Okay.
Can we put that in there? No, I'm good.
So a motion has been made to authorize $1,000 for health, social and recreational services. Do I hear a second?
Okay, get your name. Okay,
Motion. Oh, sure. Okay, we'll have some discussion. I'm sorry, we should have asked for discussion first. Go ahead.
One of the things that I'd like to say is, as an example, the Alexander House. The Alexander House is for battered women, and they do serve Linwood, and Linwood people have been there. And they also, there's a group in, I'm not going to remember the name of it, in Forest Lake that does counseling, and that also serves Linwood. So these are groups that serve our community, just so you know that.
And there's also another one called Cranberry House.
Right.
yep.
These organizations that you donate money to, are they 503Cs?
501c3s.
501c3s? Are they all?
Yeah, it's considered charitable donations. That's why we need a motion on a separate denomination for it.
Okay,
Correct.
so the money always goes to one of those.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
So the
Here-
motion on the floor is to allocate $1,000. I have it as, yes, has it been seconded?
Yep, it has been seconded.
Okay, motion has been made to allocate $1,000 for health, social and recreational services and seconded. All in favor? Was there a comment I missed?
I wanted to make one comment. and
Okay,
What I've been looking, Polaris has their own foundation that helps support local communities and qualified recipients. And in fact, they even give what they call dollars for doers, hours spent doing charity work in your neighborhood, helping out your neighbor, raking his lawn, doing snow removal and so on. And we can raise up, each individual that works at Polaris can raise up to $500 for, $10 an hour that can be put into one of these 501c3s. I always get it wrong. So with that said, I know there's a number of Polaris employees that live in this community now, and we may be able to further reduce that amount. And I'm working towards a $500 contribution. I haven't made my mind up on where to put it. But if I'm proposing that you withdraw the 1,000 and reduce it to 500.
Yep. So we have it in case if people ask for it. Like I said, some years we haven't spent anything of it.
What I'm trying to say is I would work to get that $500 to make up the difference.
So in a sense,
Or do we need to just let this ride till next year and we end up with an overrun?
so every year this dollar amount needs to be statutorily, it needs to be voted on at the annual meeting. So every year it's going to be whatever the residents decide it's going to be. So
Okay, so if we only use 1,000 next year and I put able to get Polaris to donate $500, that's
the
$500.
thing is are you donating it to the township?
It would
Or are
have
you
to go to
donating
that
it to,
fund. It would
you would
have
have
to
to
go to
donate it to
fund.
that 501c3 because once you donate it to the township, still needs to be allocated throughout a motion.
And that's part of
statutorily.
what I'm trying to get to the bottom of is,
Yep.
do we have the ability to create that kind of a fund with this money that allows charitable donations to be made to that fund?
So Polaris wouldn't allow you to donate to us that amount because we are not a 501c3.
Correct.
So if you wanted to,
All right, well, I'm just going to withdraw and we can have a conversation.
Okay.
sure. Okay, so there's a motion on the floor and a second to allocate $1,000 for health, social and recreational service. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion has been made and
I
seconded. for
I do want to
1,000.
state that at the next meeting, March 25th, we will be having the community outreach coordinator from Lake Center for Youth and Families coming out to speak about what they do for our community and why they request these funds. So I would highly encourage you guys, if you really want to know what this money is going for, to attend that meeting. So that will be March 25th at 6 p.m. is when the meeting starts.
Okay. This will be my final ask for money. Motion to set the 2026 levy amount.
10A.
10A. Okay, 10A. You want to discuss the levy? Okie dokie. We got two runners now.
Yeah.
I really don't have an issue, but what I am concerned about was the fact that last year the people were shut down. And I don't like to hear that and see that. This is our meeting, it's our time. And so if anybody has something to say, this is why I wanted this here, so that we continue to keep the goal of being a township and our activity as doing this clear and open, and so that anybody has their voice heard in this meeting, because that's what it's supposed to be.
Any other comments?
Hi, my name is Corey. I got a question about the CDs for this. If we exercise that, what happens next year if we can't make budget and there's no CDs to pull from? Granted, there won't be another fire truck, hopefully, or something else that's bigger that happens. But what happens if there's no CD to pull from, if those are exhausted?
I should have a town board member that's present to answer that question, but to me, it would mean obviously that we'll have to raise the budget higher. Is there a town board member who would like to comment? Anybody? Okay, so basically.
So, good question. In terms of where we're at, we need to make a plan. And that's what this is. The people of the town doing this. What do we want for services? What do we want to go? Where do we need to be? It's tough to do that in the time frame we're talking, in the economy we're talking, to sit there and plan this for 2026. So we are the 6th largest township in the state of Minnesota. In terms of being able to start changing the way we operate for the way we live and where we want to be, I would propose us recessing this meeting. We are statutorily meeting the requirements of what we need to do. But taking that time for the rest of the year of 2025 to do exactly that. Analyze some scenarios, look at services. There's big budgets here, but no real line items. Thank you, Sandy, for speaking to that, because that's what this year would do. It was allow those departments. The departments put a lot of time into doing what they did. But when it all comes together into one big pot like this, it's tough for Department A to know the impacts with Department B. So to be able to take that time this year and work within those departments and work within the people, because it still comes back to us then. If we recess this meeting, we have this meeting again with us saying that number. To the point of just setting at this and hoping a few individuals bring it down, I'm not a fan of that. I want the voice of the people to set what that number is, and staff works extremely hard. The amount of time that went into these scenarios, you're looking at scenario 5, modified scenario 5, that was modified again. So questions that I have in my short time, where and how did the CDs and where did they come and grow from? There's $250,000 sitting in a building capital. That was news to me last year. And I've been at plenty of these meetings. What is our plan? Let's start setting a plan. We got a great grant on a new road, but what was the plan before that? Where'd the money go for the road that we were gonna pay for? Let's set this stuff up and get an actual documented plan that we can follow this roadmap through. I don't have all the answers, but this is all of our town, so we should all be able to come up with that in the course of the rest of this year.
Sandy?
Whereas I agree with you, Andy, on a lot of it. I would like to see us set the levy rather low now, and then all of us can get together. We can form a citizens advisory board, go out and talk to people, do surveys, ask people where they want our money spent. But if we say we're going to set the levy at 10% and then we'll figure out what we're going to do, in the past, they always would kick these meetings down until August. And the rationale for that is because by then you've all lost interest. And so the room would have this many people there in March. And when August came, there'd be 10 people and the board could just do whatever they wanted. They did not try to decrease the levies. They did not try to, it was kind of like, I'm not suggesting that's what you're after, but I know what happens. The people, oh, it's August, I got this going on, I'm not going to show up. And so I do believe we should be asking the people where they think we can cut things. And again, I love most of the people that work in the township, and I hate to see them have to, maybe some of them lose jobs or something, but we have to be paying attention to this because again, if you listened, Alyssa said the budget's up 43% and the board did not go back to one person and say, will you cut it? Why should we believe they're going to do that between now and August? And so I think we need to set a low dollar amount because they won't be able to pull more out of CDs, but they'll be able to pull more out of capital. So, and why do we need capital? Fire department's going to need a new roof. If we keep pulling out of the capital, they're never going to get a new roof. I mean, there's things like that that we have to be paying attention to. What's that? I'm only going by what I've been told. If that's not the case, but there are things that are going to be needed in the future. Hey, I'm not going to be here 20 years from now. So if why keep my taxes low so I don't have to help the people in the future? That's foolish. We need to be helping the people save money for the future to some extent, not overboard, but so to have the board just say, we'll just decrease the capital, we'll just decrease the capital and kick it on down the road for all the people in the future is not right. And that's why we need to. Last year, again, we asked them to cut it back $73,000, nothing major, and they didn't cut anyone back a dime. They just pulled it out of the capital. That is not trying to save us a penny. That is just them saying, we want to be the nice guys. We want to make sure you guys get what you want. And we'll just rob Peter to pay Paul. Again, you're on the board, Andy. I'm not trying to say I don't trust you, but how do we trust them? Last year, they didn't prove to us that they felt that anybody had to save a penny. And so now we're supposed to say, yeah, let's just let it go till August and assume we're all going to be showing up to try to speak to it. It's not going to happen. So I don't know. I wish I would have come in with a dollar amount or a percentage. I don't know what that is, but I think we should set it. And then we have until August when it actually has to get certified to the county. We have until then to try to figure out how we're going to make us live within our means. Instead, a 43% increase is ridiculous. And you can say some of that's the paid leave. That's under 1% for our costs. Yes, the employees pay some. Those are not the big things that are costing us money. It's that wages went up. Policing went up. What has policing gone up in the last 4 years? Over $100,000. And we just sit here. We have one deputy for 8 hours a day. And we are paying I'm not even sure. Alyssa, do you know? $330,000 for one deputy in one car for 8 hours a day. But none of us are looking into where can we save that money. And if we would have just kept cutting things out of the capital funds, you guys wouldn't be getting a fire truck. The capital funds have to be funded. So they say, we're going to leave it in for the fire department because they need the trucks. But it's okay that we're not leaving it in for equipment for when we need to replace a plow truck. And you do need to replace them from time to time. I'm not saying we need it now, but we don't want to have to come up with that kind of money 8 years from now, all in 1 year, because nobody's willing to say, you guys got to cut here so we can save some of this. And those are my concerns, is that don't be listening to a 10% increase. It's a 43% increase that they're just pulling. Ask Alyssa, it's not on that sheet.
That was scenario 1 that was brought up. And that is why it was declined and moved down to modified scenario 5.
The budget is up 43%. They're covering it by decreasing the capital funds and by pulling the money out of the CDs and a 10% increase in our our levy of 10%. That's where they're funding the 43% increase. They never looked at the budget and said, we need to cut this down, and then we'll propose a 5% budget, or we'll leave the capital funds. It all happened quickly. They canceled the third budget meeting where they could have discussed some of that. Because as Andy said, we don't know what it's going to be like months from now. That being said, you still have to look at going back to some of the departments and say, whoa, wait a minute. We don't think you're going overboard, but the residents cannot afford a 43%. And you'll say, well, no, they're only going to tax or levy us 10%. But they just took $300,000, or they are, out of our CDs. And where did that money come from? That came from previous boards who worked very hard to save that money for a rainy day. Maybe this is the rainy day, but you then still don't increase it and still cut the capital. You say, we're willing to work with this. We're not going to just make the residents pay a 43% increase, and we're just going to pull it out of this pocket and that pocket to make it work. Who here wants a 43% increase? Who here could afford a 43% increase? And so to say, let's just push it down the road. Yes, we maybe need to have meetings, but set this low so that it doesn't come back to haunt us later. We put it off, and then they decide we won't cash in a CD. We're just going to increase the levy 25%, because they'll have whoever shows up at that meeting is going to have that right. And again, most of you will not show up. Just looking at what's happened. I've been around a long time and have been to a lot of these meetings. It's exactly what happens. And for years and years and years, that's exactly what the board did on purpose. I do not think that's what this board is doing on purpose, but that's what they did because they knew the people wouldn't show up. I think we have to pull the reins in now, then try to work with them on how they can get it down to whatever the dollar amount is for this year. And then in the future, try to work with it, have people work within their budgets with what, not what they ask for. Every single, I'm aware, all of the different people watch their budgets a little bit, but they all increased. Not one budget went down. Everybody increased. And maybe this is the year we need to say no. Again, we tried to cut it back last year, and this board did not go along with it. They just said, oh, we'll just decrease the capital. We're not going to ask anybody to save a dime. We're not going to ask anybody to turn the lights off more. Nothing, like zero was asked of anybody to save a dime. So to me, the board did not prove that they listen to what the people want. They just pull it out of somewhere else. And that's why I'm so adamant. We need to give $1. Again, I don't have a percentage in mind, but we need to talk about something. And then as far as getting together, yeah, we should form a committee or something that can look at budgets and say, maybe if we do this, or maybe if we do that, we can cut some of it back. But to leave it wide open, it's not going to be at 10%. I can pretty much guarantee you, or more CDs will be cashed in. And we don't get to the choice if they cash in a CD. That's the board's decision. All we get to do is establish the levy. We don't get to say you have to fund the capital. We don't get to say you can't cash in the CDs. Our only right as residents is to say this is the levy that we're comfortable with, what percentage. That's our only thing. And again, last year we did it and they just kind of threw it back in our face. We're not saving a dime. We're just going to do this. And maybe not everybody who was on the board understood that, but that's exactly what happened. And that's why it's important this time that we make ourselves known that we're not going to put up with that one more year. And again, maybe they didn't totally understand it, but no one, not one department was asked, would you please cut back 5 cents? And that's what's got me so furious about this. So as much as you want to do that, I say we set a levy and then we help you work on how you're going to make it. If you really want to know what the people want. But we don't just let it go till August, because if we let it go till August, I guarantee it's going to be more than 10%.
Thank you. I've been sitting in the overflow room. And I just wanted to add that in addition to the CD face value, we'll be losing whatever interest they're drawing. And I'm getting 4% on mine right now. It's not great, but it's 4%. It's more than 0%.
So we actually would like to, we could have nickeled and dimed everything. And then you guys could have came back and said, no, we want it lowered more. This way, if we wait until September is when it's due. I actually been working with several other townships, and I was totally shocked that in September they're working on their budget. I'm going, which we have 6 months to figure out, okay, what is everything going to be? Is things going to go up? Are things going to go down? And this way it gives us a chance to say, okay, so this department wants to spend this much. We can cut that, where before, if we would have cut one little thing, it wouldn't have been enough to where we could cut, it's just the cutting this stuff. It's like, okay, this is going to cost this much. That'll cost that much. But we can look at all the departments. We have 6 months. We can see where everything is going to go. I would encourage, Luke is great at motivating people to come here for the meeting. I would encourage him to motivate people to get here. We just need, we can't go up from 10%. We can go down, which we are hoping to go down, but we would like the 6 months to see where everything is going to be going.
I just want to clarify here. The final levy is due to the county December 31st of 2025. It's not November. So nope, statutorily, we need to have it to Anoka County by December 30th.
And I just want to clear up some confusion. The fire department roof was replaced 4 years ago. So in lieu of any phone calls tomorrow, just want that for the record.
Okay,
You're all up here.
Yep.
I really didn't want to talk, but I'm going to. I was on the board for 12 years and I never saw a budget go down. I never saw a budget that had any amount of money. Well, I'll take that back. I do know of one, and that was a senior center. But budgets, people spend what they have. So if you give them $300,000, they're going to spend $300,000. And I'm the board that I was on as the board that saved the money for the CDs. Because when I came to the board, I was part of that 12 years where they didn't raise the levy. They didn't save a dime. And the first thing that happened, Sandy, you might have to help. We had to buy some kind of a truck. It was like 187, some big number. We didn't have the money because we'd never saved any money. And then the board looked at each other and said, we got tractors, we got this, we got that. It all needs to be replaced. We need to save for these things. And we still need to save for them. So I'm in agreement with Sandy.
Okay. Everybody gets put a face to the name, to all the voice. What I'm wondering is that we've got 6 departments and I agree that, you know, everyone's making budget cuts. You look anywhere, look at any business, they're all making budget cuts. They have to because things are starting to go in the wrong direction. This budget is big, next year's even bigger. So I would propose that each of these groups goes back and tries to find 10%, 15%, 20% reductions. Put it out and show us what that looks like, what each of their groups taking down 5, 10, 15, 20%, cut your budgets. They should be treating it as if it's a mandate. This is what we're asking you to do, is come back with real numbers. This is what we're telling you we want you to do. Then show us the numbers. Then we can vote on it. And we can say that 15% reduction, we're going to lose all of this out of your group. As a group, we accept that. We do that with each one of these groups. And we basically vote on each of their budgets. Then you get the final budget number, because you get that number when it gets to August. We don't want to be in the situation where we were before. We just said, we'll just hack this one department's budget. It'd be better if everybody agreed upon it, knew everybody was going to suffer a little. That's my opinion.
Question for him or separate? Oh.
Finally, I think it's my turn. Later turn. Good. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I, like Sandy, have only got fixed income and only 2.5%. I think most of the employees here got a 3.5%, if I'm not mistaken. So they deserve it. No question about it. They deserve it. But it's getting a little close to my bedtime here and I need my beauty sleep, as you can see. So I'm going to make a motion for 2 million.
So the levy for 2025 was $2,076,750. So 2 million is lowering the levy $76,750.
Except decrease our savings. So if we want to say that again, like with what you're proposing, Tony, they're just going to decrease the capital funds and let it ride. But we don't get to set, we only can set the levy at a percentage, I think. I don't know that we can just say the full dollar amount, can we? No, because they're planning on taking some of this money out of the CDs.
No, so the levy that is proposed has nothing to do with
This isn't the
CDs.
budget, then this is the
We're
levy
looking
itself.
for the levy itself. That is correct.
Okay, I'll second Tony.
I just wanted to say that I didn't see, and I'll probably get some flack for this, but I didn't see the town board looking to cut anything anywhere, talking to anybody else like everybody else is saying, and I agree. There's no reason that every department can't cut 10% off their budget. It's ridiculous. It never goes down. It's government, and we're at the low end of this. Look at the federal government. Everywhere it needs to be cut. It needs to keep going. And if we don't stand up and stop this, they're not going to do anything about it. So, thank you.
Okay, there is a motion on the floor to make the proposed 2026 levy exactly $2 million. Is that correct?
Been motioned and it's been seconded.
Okay, we have some more comments.
So just, I'm there. That's what I'm speaking to. I'm not a they, I'm a you. I pay taxes here just as much as you. I don't want it anymore. What I'm asking is exactly that. People say it's at this and then we've got to look at the actual plan. And that's exactly what I'm proposing. You take that time, allow staff to get more numbers, get more actual plan of what this capital is going to be. And we develop it as the people. Everyone's interested in the finances. Let's get a finance committee. We can do that. Everyone can put the checks and balances in place and we can monthly have these reports right on the website for everyone to see where every single penny, because this isn't showing you every penny. In the reports that I've got, I'm working as fast as I can to try and get some of these things together for the next meeting. Is look at those last 3-year averages, understand our anomalies, look at contracted services in terms of some of the overhead and wages. How can we support the services we want and need? We just say 2 million. What do you want that for? We need the voice of the people to say that.
You mentioned, Andy, the reports that you got. Are those like the budget reports from the departments? Okay, so those have been out for how long? Because I know that you want to extend this to make this go on and on and on. But quite honestly, in the past, the budget reports have gone out. Committees have worked on their budgets. The town board has looked at those budgets and a determination was made and the people voted on it. I don't think the idea of delaying this for months and months is a wise idea. I think if there's a levy set, then it's the town board's responsibility to go back to those committees and say, okay, here's the levy. We need you to cut this percentage from your budget. Figure it out. That seems to be the logical way to do it rather than saying, no, we'll wait until September. We're just pushing things off. And the more we push things off, the more things change. And so I think getting this budget so that we know what to expect in the future is critical. So pushing it off isn't a good idea.
I think what we're forgetting is that we're still a township and it seems to me that we're being pushed very fast into being a city, providing all city services. And there's a lot of new people that are coming into the township and they keep on thinking that this is a city and that, well, I heard one story of somebody who actually wanted to know where their water bill was. Well, you know, I have a well in my yard, you know. But the whole thing of it is, I really like the people who are on the board. I really do, but I do not believe after watching some of these meetings that they're really looking at every opportunity that we have to follow through and find out what needs to be done to cut this. And I watch the budget meetings too. So that is one thing that I think that we really need to do. And I don't know what the right thing is to do, whether to push it down the road or not. But if they don't do anything in the meantime, it doesn't do us one bit of good.
So last year, I heard former Chairman Parker point out there are 2 things the township has to do. They maintain roads and they maintain emergency services. Everything else is subject to be cutting. If we can't fit the budget, then something else needs to give. That's just the way it goes. If you have a house, your mortgage and your food can't be cut, right? Everything else is free to go. You got to cut your cable, okay?
Okay, so let's say we're paying 20%, 25% of our property tax goes to Linwood, right? We're sitting there arguing over this 20 to 25%. Well, Anoka County is just sitting there and they're the ones jacking majorly jacking our property taxes up. And what do we get from them? Snow plowing? I mean, honestly, what do they really give us? So, I mean, well, county roads, okay. But I mean, really, we should be, in my book, we should be pretty upset with them also. I mean, not just fighting amongst our, 20% of our township budget, when Anoka County's just sitting there taking 40 or 50 and doing whatever the hell they want with it. I mean, that's ridiculous to me.
Okay. We're done commenting.
So we're paying $368,000 for one police car and one officer for 8 hours a day. Does that sound like something we should be paying for when the county is already supposed to supply these services to us? That should be the first thing that should be cut, in my opinion. They aren't even $200 is all they wrote for tickets. They can sit on 22 by my house. They can sit in my driveway and they can give 100 tickets a day out, but they don't do it. But they expect us to pay this bill. This is where we need to start. They still have to provide us services. And they're not doing anything 8 hours a day during the day. The criminals are out here at night. So this is where it needs to start.
Okay, I would like to call the question. Yeah, well, I'd like to call the question. So the vote on the floor would be to set the 2026 levy amount at $2 million. It has been seconded. All in favor? All opposed?
Yep.
Let's do a count. All in favor again, raise your hand.
Please hold your hands up until we can count.
$2 million.
Here, nay. She said she. Okay, I got 28.
Okay, we have approximately 28 and 25, which would be 53. So
It's only for one vote.
that's for the yes. Yeah, 20. Well, you had, I know, but you added those two together and you didn't add them together.
I count 28 for everybody.
Okay. All opposed?
Oh, okay. 29 no.
And 28 yeses. So the motion does not carry. So do we have another motion to raise or lower the amount? Yeah. Well, if 2 million didn't make it, how would 2,000,001 make it? Okay. So now we have it.
I second it.
Or if we could just keep it at the same rate as last year, at least. Everything is going up in price.
All right, Ted Engen.
Okay, we have another motion on the floor for 2,100,000. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so now we're gonna go for a vote on 2,100,000. All in favor? Okay, 34 yeses. All opposed?
And up before I pass you.
Okay, the motion passes. So the motion has been made for $2,100,000. And I think that moves us to the next meeting on 7 PM on March 10th, 2026. There, that one, we made a motion. It's been seconded. All in favor? Now my next motion is adjourn. Okay, we got a question. Quick.
Quick. I'm not in no hurry. Who's in a hurry? Congratulations again on doing this job that y'all get to do. I appreciate you. One thing we haven't thanked is the people who work for this township. We have one public works employee. He hasn't had help in 6 months. I'd like to thank him for busting his butt in this township every single day. We have an office staff who has missed family functions because we're short a clerk for 5 more days. They busted their butt for this township, and I cannot thank them enough for what they do. They don't get enough credit. If the keyboard warriors want to jump on that statement, go ahead. Kiss my butt, but they are great people, and we got to thank these employees we have every day. So, oh, Paul, good God, Paul is in recycling, hasn't had help in 3 months. So if you see Paul, thank Paul for what he does, but thank his volunteers too. So, put him in.
Now do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second? All in favor? Oh, wait. Good night.
So move.
Hey, you're certainly welcome.
What's his name?